What's up, everybody, and welcome to the TwitchCon live episode of Fanboys. Thank you guys for showing up. Really appreciate you guys coming.
Literally, as we're starting, Zeke comes up and shows me the selfie he took with my mom.
Are we going to compare selfies that we took with your mom? Because I got a couple.
You know what,
Oh,
Zeke?
Terms of service, everybody.
You want to know something, though? You've been beat to it so many times. Yeah, the original roommate.
You got to choose your wording a lot different.
You really need to be careful with the way you say these things.
No, you got to understand, like growing up in college, you know, how many your mom jokes were thrown out there. So like, my buddy thought this is going to be the best your mom joke. So,
right. So
Well,
you can't use it, Zeke. I'm immune to it.
in absolutely traditional Fanboys fashion, that was one of the worst intros I've ever seen in my life. But that's that's what we do. I'm your host, Jeff Control Robinson. My co-host, as always, is Marcus djWHEAT Graham. Today we're going to do we're going to talk about our top shows in movies with some awesome guests. On my far left, your guys' right mostly, is djTechLive. How you doing, buddy?
Hello. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute honor. I've been wanting to be on this show for a long time.
Well, don't mess it up, man. You know.
I'm not.
And then our next guest is Mr. Adam Koebel. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Hey.
Adam is a busy man. How many panels did you do at this TwitchCon?
It's like six, I think, 6 or
Is
7.
it like 6 or
37,
37?
I mean, there's panels, there's appearances, there's signings, you know.
Yeah.
That's called maximize your TwitchCon. I like it.
It's true.
Dude.
Like
But
that.
we only have an hour, so we're going to talk about our favorite movies and shows of the year. We don't have a spoiler button, by the way, so we do have Zeke in a onesie. I guess we can improv there if we need to.
Have him run across.
We'll try to keep it spoiler-free, but it's mostly a recount of the stuff throughout the year, I think. I know with Adam, and I was reticent to put this there, but we're going to talk about Blade Runner, which we didn't get to talk about that much in the show. Have you seen it yet, by the way? You still haven't, have you?
What event are we
My
at again?
God!
Hold on, what event is this? Is this TwitchCon? Is this
Yes.
what we've been preparing for the last 6 months?
This guy makes time to see Ninjago, the Lego movie. Oh,
Hey, man.
where's the time go for Blade Runner?
And it was fucking
You and the rest of the people. It didn't do that well in box offices, unfortunately. But we're gonna talk about some stuff. So let's start at positive. Let's talk about our top 3 favorite movies. And we can, like I said, we're really casual about this. If you're like, I only got 2, I'm not gonna be like, well, you're out. You're voted out of here. It's just, I wanna start with you, DJ Tech. What do you got?
I think everyone knows what mine is. I've talked about it so many times on Twitter. I've spammed it. I went with Marcus like, why wasn't it on the show when you talked about it? Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah?
It's definitely my top of the year. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan, been for a long, very, very long time. And Tom Holland fit the role 100%. The relationship between him and Robert Downey Jr. was perfect. The aunt, I forgot her name that played Aunt May, but she was
Unfortunately, she just
Marissa
became
Tomei?
hot Aunt May in that
She's
show.
right. She's
Yeah.
52 years old, by the way.
What?
But she's amazing. She did a great job. So she was playing that middle role, and the setting, and it was based off of a Spider-Man that didn't have to do the origin story. Thank goodness, right? We've heard it enough. And they really focused on Peter Parker.
Now, did you say this as a person? Did you like the other Spider-Man movies?
Spider-Man 2 was actually was my favorite because action
The
scene.
Amazing Spider-Man 2?
No, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 2. No,
There's a lot of Spider-Man.
The other one,
There
I don't
are,
even.
man. I got
Too many
No, the
Spider-Man.
Amazing. No.
Who does he fight
Okay.
now? And that's how I know them.
I'm sorry.
Who's he fight?
And that one was like, I think it was with Sandman.
And Green Goblin.
Yeah,
Right.
Green Goblin came. Yeah, the son of Green Goblin.
Right.
Mysterio and that werewolf that's Kingpin's kid. Yeah.
Yeah, that one was really good. The musical score was great. The outfit was really well done. The fight scene was really well done. Choreography was great. But Homecoming took it from me. The classic Spider-Man in the beginning redone, the music leading into the song sounding so high school-like. The doom, 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 like that noise, it just felt everything was really well
Yeah, it was
done.
interesting. A lot of the comments about that movie was that it got high school really well, which I was
Yes.
like, it was funny because that is a part of Spider-Man that you don't necessarily immediately think about, but he is a high schooler throughout.
Yeah, it's based off the
25
Ultimate
years or
Universe. It's more so the Amazing Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man,
Yeah.
all about the Daily Bugle and all that stuff. But
It felt to me like they just took all of the good stuff about the Miles Morales Spider-Man, but then didn't fucking put Miles Morales
Isn't
in
he
it.
supposed to be coming up and, like, I think they
yeah, he was mentioned in the movie as a nephew only. They didn't say any names.
It's so weird because it's like there's this fucking jar of mayonnaise in a Spider-Man costume surrounded by all of these like awesome side characters. But Peter Parker is like the least fucking interesting thing about the whole film, except when he's getting beat up. But like that to me, like I went and saw it and I was excited about like his sidekick and like Mary Jane, like that. All that stuff is really cool. Yeah. But then it's orbiting around this just like loaf of bread.
I agree with you to an extent about Miles Morales' story because his best friend Ned was an exact replica of Miles Morales' best friend in the comic books. Like. From the look, the feel.
Who's Miles Morales for people that?
He's
like
Spider-Man. He got spider powers at 9 years old. His uncle, no spoilers, but what was his name? Gambino, Childish Gambino played him in the movie. His uncle, and he's Prowler at the end of the day. I mean, everyone knows that.
Oh.
And Prowler.
Yeah, everyone knows that.
Right. Yeah. You know.
I knew that.
Obviously.
He got bit by a spider. It was an experimental spider being recreated by Osborn. So he was trying to recreate the spider that built Peter Parker and make it better so he can have an army of them. None of them worked. One got away, of course, and mysteriously ended up in an apartment somewhere.
Of course.
And that's Gambino in the movie? That's him?
Gambino's the uncle.
The uncle?
Yes,
He's old enough to play uncle roles now?
He's gonna be Lando.
He's around my age. He's in 30s.
Young Lando, dude.
Young. I mean,
But the funny,
how old was Billy D. Williams in Empire? Like
100.
100? Yeah.
funny thing is Miles Morales was based off of Childish Gambino.
Really? Right, because there was a while where he was like really aggressively like pushing, and there was some rumor about that he was going to get cast as Spider-Man before he kind of aged out of the role. Not for this batch of Spider-Man, but the previous generation of Spider-Man.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, when Miles Morales was being made, all you saw was his head on the actual body and stuff, and he's responsible for the new animation that's coming out that's focused on Miles Morales. Season 1 went really well, so season 2 is coming out.
That's interesting. It sounds like a hard sell because it's like that sounds just like another Spider-Man. He's bitten by a radioactive spider.
The story is actually hits home because he's in Brooklyn, of course, but his family is not the most wealthy family. But there's a big turnaround twist and the plot twist in it about his father.
They are wealthy.
No, not truth is, no.
Daddy, your car's so nice.
I don't want to spoil it because I don't know if they're gonna do a movie. But it's dealing with his father, and it really turned the story around. I liked it more than original Peter Parker. Hate me.
Okay. It had a similar thing to me as the Star Wars movies where I came away from that excited for more. It's not that I looked at that movie and was like, this is the best movie I've ever seen ever, but I was like, I'm finally excited about more.
Yeah.
And for me, it's actually interesting because looming on the horizon is the Venom movie in 2018.
Exactly.
You're going to go a completely different route, so.
Yeah, it's a completely different universe, and it's going to be rated R. Thank goodness.
I love it.
But the thing that I think I was most excited why I said was one of my favorites is because we finally have Spider-Man in the MCU. Right? He's such a huge character, and for Sony and Marvel to get together and make this beautiful thing happen, I'm just excited for the future movies.
Yeah. Well, let's go down the line, and then we'll come back around with our other favorite movies. But Adam, is it as predictable as I think it is? It is Blade Runner 2049?
Yeah? Yes, yeah, completely.
That's so good.
Yeah, I think the reason that I liked it as much, and I go into this knowing that I'm not an impartial audience, right? Like, I wanted to like it, I liked it. Those things lined up.
To me, though, that's actually the harder audience, I find. Like, you're a huge fan of the original.
It's easier to be let down, I think.
Yeah. I really liked Alien.
Well, so we can talk about. I also really like Alien. We can talk about Covenant later. That's not on this list.
Okay.
I almost did it myself.
But yeah, Blade Runner. I think the thing about it is that the reason I like Blade Runner is because I like Chinatown so much. So if you haven't seen Chinatown, it's like one of the best films ever made. Film noir like just fucking gets me going, and then putting all of the grim kind of hazy neon aesthetic on top of it that made the original Blade Runner so good. And at this point, I remember the three of us having a conversation about Sicario back when that action came out. Old Denis has been knocking him out the park. Like, he did a fantastic job, and I think the thing that made Blade Runner good is that it's like a Rockstar game in a lot of ways, in that you can feel his fingerprints all over it. It wasn't just like, let's try our hardest to pretend to be Ridley Scott, let's do our own thing. And I actually think the weakest stuff about Blade Runner was all the callbacks to the original. Like, I think that they could have cut Harrison Ford completely.
I actually agree.
And not had, like, I love Harrison Ford. He's in so much of the stuff that I love, but he just didn't feel necessary in that film, which I think speaks monuments to how good the rest of the movie is. If they're like star attention getter, you could just cut him and it would still be fantastic.
Because I agree. I didn't even think he was a bad part of that movie. It was a weird, like, introspective thing I had to wrestle with, because I don't like that some actors and actresses do get typecasted really hardcore, and I don't necessarily think Harrison Ford has been, but when he comes back as Han Solo and these characters, I'm like, same thing with Indiana Jones. It's like, when they show him and they're like, all the jokes are so old now. They weren't doing that in this movie, obviously, but it's just, there's a part of me that is disappointed, and I had to, like, wrestle with that, no matter what.
It's a danger, I think, when you're directing an actor who is known really well for a role, in that role, in another film, to not...
40 years later.
Yeah, to not be like, it's Harrison Ford, what do you think, guys? Here he is, he's not dead yet. And then... several hours later, never mind. But I wondered about this. I wonder if I would be less, I would have wanted him in it less had Star Wars not come out so recently. Because there were lots of times where it was like, okay, Han, just fucking move on, get through it. Yeah. But everything else about the film, the soundtrack was quite good. I was interested to see that they took it a different direction, that like the direction of the film, the soundtrack wasn't just, let's try to be Vangelis, because you will fail if you attempt to do that. It felt much more like the soundtrack to Arrival, much more atmospheric, very modern. Right. But yeah, it felt like it fit into that universe in a way that was really satisfying for me.
We have similar answers, so I'm going to save my commentary for that. And Marcus hasn't seen it because he's too busy with TwitchCon, I guess. Did you see it, or what'd you think?
I didn't. I really want to see it. I saw so many Twitter posts like, oh my God, you have to see this movie.
He's a guest.
So busy with TwitchCon, you know.
I think we'll save time for when I talk about it. I want to talk about how it didn't do well in the box office, actually, which I thought, didn't do well as in for the quality of what it was. That was interesting. But before we get to that, Marcus, what is... and I don't know, by the way, your favorite movie of the year.
So I'm not going to lie, this is hard because
know?
This was an amazing popcorn summer. Like, just go to the movies, get your popcorn, and enjoy it. Like, there was a lot that I just enjoyed where I was like, you know, you rate the quality of the movie experiences. Like, did I just waste what is now like $80 when I go to the movie because the family goes, you know? Or
Marcus goes to very special theaters that only rich people are allowed to go to.
I do
clear
like
out the theater.
Dolby Atmos theaters where apparently that's worth like
What do I do, waste $200 these days?
Here's $40 to go see a Star Wars.
I love it though. So I kind of went with movies that I was like, this was so unique, that blew me away. And I'm going to throw this out here because I think someone else will probably have it on their list. But it's also my biggest regret for 2017 because I did not see this one in the theater, and that's Baby Driver.
Oh, man, it was so good.
I just, like, I swear to God, if every movie was just synced to music, even like the effects and the things happening, everything was so visceral, from the action, the driving. Oftentimes, a lot in driving movies, Fast and the Furious, right? The cuts will just get to the point where it's like, all right, this is way over. And I felt like suddenly when everything was cut to the music, that the movie literally flows the entire time. And interestingly enough, like, my wife was like, hey, I've got the soundtrack, and it's like, the soundtrack was good. It was appropriate for the movie, but it's not necessarily the soundtrack that I'm going to walk away and listen and jam out to. And so I found that interesting, but I loved Baby Driver. The moment I saw it, I was just like, we totally should have saw this in the theater. It was so awesome. And everyone was like, go see this in the theater. It's totally worth it. So that's going to be one of my first ones.
I love that shit. That movie was a shocker. I think it benefited from the fact that there wasn't that much expectation for it from a lot of people, except that you looked at the cast and you were like, well, this has to be somewhat good. But even that, these days, maybe not the most true thing in the world, but for me, when Anna and I went and saw it, we were like, I heard it's pretty good. But we expect an action movie. When people say pretty good, it means like 55% of Rotten Tomatoes. So gonna be terrible, but okay. No, this was like you said, the artistry of syncing it up to that.
Yeah.
And then I also, this is like my soapbox that I guess I will die on. I've put out there a few times. I don't know that many people agree with me, but I think this movie suffered from the name of it as well. I honestly believe a lot of people look at the name Baby Driver and we're like, absolutely.
I mean, isn't that judging a book by its cover?
No,
I watch a lot of great movies with dumb fucking names.
But to be fair, we put covers on books for a reason.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
If it was just like a wad of words, you're like, I like this one.
Yeah.
Another one of those weird animated baby movies is what was the other one that came out.
Baby Driver featuring Alec Guinness.
Yeah.
Well, so I said after I saw it, my main feedback on this was that Baby Driver is a better musical than La La Land was.
Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because I wanted La La Land to be that movie, but it wasn't, and yeah.
Yeah, well, and the cool thing about Baby Driver, and to your point about driving films, is that they are about cadence, right? The cadence of the film, the movement from one scene to another has to be perfect because the entire film is about motion. And that's why I think that Drive does the same thing from another angle.
Which is a good soundtrack,
Which
by the way.
Drive is glacial in its pacing, right? Like it's very slow and very lazy in the midsection. And Baby Driver, I think, understands cadence in the same way, and that's what made it so good. It felt to me almost like a music video in the sense that the music was as much a participant in the ongoing narrative as the
I mean, to the point when he's like, hold on, I need to restart the song.
Yeah.
Like it's one of the best moments because even the movie is like, yeah, this is the important piece that you are here to see.
I fell into it too. Like the characters are stylized to kind of an absurd level in a way that played with the musical element. Like a couple of those characters, at first when it was kind of picking up pace that you were gonna see that it's in sync to music, I was like, this character is really kind of flamboyant and a little bit out there. It's not a real character, but then you see that everyone kind of is. Even just the way the girl talks is very like romantic action movie, like hey baby. I can't do the voice. I can't believe I tried.
You can. Okay, don't you want to hear
I think
Jeff
you should try it. I mean, let's put some effort into this.
It's the kind of thing you can only do on stage when peer pressured by hundreds of people. But it just like when she came over to take the order, she's just like, hey baby, you know, and I was like, that's ridiculous. But then she talked the whole I'm not gonna do it. Get out of here.
This is why we're here, folks.
But then the part I'm actually, to be fair, I'm not the most like amazingly sharp movie watcher. Like things like concepts kind of hit me a little bit slower than others. I didn't even get the music was synced up until the bullets hit the wall and it was in sync with a boom, boom, boom. And I was like, oh my god. Okay. Well, and Anna's like, yes, of course. It's been going on for 45 minutes. The music's with the movie. Did you notice that?
Wait a minute, the driver's name was Baby all along.
I agree with you on the trailer part. When I saw the trailer, I was like, okay, another Drive movie. And they were like, Baby. I was like, what? Okay, you know? But then I saw the behind the scenes, and the choreographer actually, the way they shoot the guns, is like, boop, boop, boop. They actually had to do that and look like they were still professionals at the same time and not just playing a music game, so to speak.
Right.
And I was very, very intrigued by that. I thought it was really cool. I hope to see some more films actually incorporate that, you know?
And I guess I'll go with mine, but I even want to start with a theme of movies that kind of suffered for one reason or another. I think another one is like Lucky Logan. I think that it's so interesting because this one, I almost blame the trailers, which has been my other complaint throughout the year of doing Fanboys with you, is where like some trailers are like, we'll talk about episode 8 in a little bit here, but it's like, spoiler, theme, this is what happens. And I'm like, oh! Like the Thor trailer where she pawns it.
Hold on. Jeff is so goddamn, like, he can't get over this fucking hammer getting broken,
Dude, such a big moment.
Every time Thor comes up, it's like, and that hammer is broken. Like, what?
She's deaf.
I don't make apologies for that.
Would you have cried with that? If you didn't have known about it, would it have been like, but now, like, that's not. I'm still.
Mjolnir is Jeff's rosebud. It's just,
Oh my.
he's gonna be lying there in his deathbed and he's gonna drop the snow globe and be like, Mjolnir.
I make no apologies. That thing's supposed to be indestructible and amazing. And in the preview, they show it.
The original title of the film was Thor, Fuck Yo Hammer. So
That also means she's really powerful.
Yes,
I know.
She's deaf.
it's a metaphor.
You're the queen of what? And then he like shows like lightning or something.
So good to be back.
Catch the cameras.
So for me, it was Blade Runner, and I thought about this has been a good year for movies, and we'll talk more about our second and third or whatever. But for me, and I'll take all of Adam's answers and cross-apply them here, but what I would add on to it was so refreshing to see a movie that went against the grain on like modern cash-in concepts, because this had to happen. If they would have just been like, because even in the previews, they showed a lot of the action scenes, which in a 2-hour and 45-minute movie, there weren't that many action scenes.
Well, that was the fear, right? Is the trailer represented the film, and if it did, the percentage of like flying and crashing into shit and getting punched in the face would have been much higher.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I found the violence and the action scenes in it to be impactful, especially because of their limitations, right? Like the last fight scene in the film was like borderline hard to watch because it was so sparse throughout with the action.
And it wasn't like, they didn't try to sell you on these are hyper combat mega droids and there's like super amazing combat, but it was impressive enough.
Well, and that's very much a film noir thing, right? Like one of the main qualities of a film noir protagonist is their ability to drink and get punched, right? Like you watch anything and the character's main job is just getting rolled over by mafia dudes or by robots. And I think this movie did a great job. It gave us lots of Ryan Gosling getting thrown around.
Yep. And I loved, Anna and I watched the original before the director's cut, and it was cool seeing it go from this to that, where obviously there were some modernizations and it was done a little bit differently, because I don't think that's a bad thing, but it was 2 hours and 45 minutes where, like right now, the law in Hollywood is you cannot do that. There's no way. And then beyond that, it was unfortunate because I saw it twice. I walked out of both theaters, and there was enough people within earshot of me who were just like, I mean, Ryan Gosling's hot, but like, what else? And
just pour gasoline on yourself and light a match. It's like, fuck this, I don't want to live here anymore.
It was rough, and it's hard because you could take a movie like this with this kind of branding and this kind of establishment, you could sex it up, and it would probably be a mega big movie. And I don't think they made this saying, well, it'll be like 45 million, probably. You know? They were hoping, I'm sure, for a lot more. But I hope that, and this is why it's kind of a weird favorite, I hope it doesn't do a backlash where you just never see it again.
Yeah, I mean, every time they make a movie in a beloved universe, there's a chance that you will get an Alien versus Predator, right? There is a chance that there's a chance it'll be bad. And I think there's a part of me that
I'm still hurting.
Almost, and I hate the idea that anyone that participated in this film will not get the money they so obviously deserve, but part of me is like, if it tanks a little bit, it might cause them to reconsider making another one. This one was good. I don't want to go through the whole rigmarole of getting emotionally invested and then be like, Blade Runner 3, run harder, and like it's all sexy and fucking
harder.
No, so I think the thing is that it is what it is, but I don't know that there was ever a chance that this movie was going to be that. Like, I think that Blade Runner is a thing that we know because we're sort of cinephiles, right? And I don't know that, like a Star Wars or whatever, people think of Blade Runner that same way.
Okay, well, let's talk about some of our other favorite movies. We'll kind of gloss it. I expected this. We just, we have 37 more minutes, and I do want to talk about the stuff we hated. So, so your number 2, number 3. If you have a number 2 or whatever, just tell me.
My number 2 is Logan.
Yeah?
It's excellent.
Damn good choice.
Prequel to Lucky Logan.
Yeah, it was so good. I felt that he really finally played Wolverine in this, and there's something that I could relate to, and reading the comic books, knowing the internal struggle that Wolverine actually has, we finally get it, and not a silly movie with him stabbing people with glitter coming out. Like,
it's the Xena warrior princess problem. Like, she has a sword, and then she hits people with the flat part of it all day. It's a sword. Do you not know how it works? Like,
for being rated R,
just the atmosphere of it.
The cast was amazing. Yeah. Oh my goodness. What was the little girl's name? I forgot her name off the top of my head, but she was perfect. Like, she just played that role so well. And the other one, I like Guardians of the Galaxy too.
That's okay.
I did.
I did too.
Thank you. I thought the comedy was great in it.
Soylent has a ton of great flavors.
It's still. I think that it has one of the best sort of title intros, at least of this year.
Oh, always, yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Do you like these jokes the first time? Because here they come again.
They didn't do that the first time. They weren't together, man.
The first one was so good.
The first one was
The
good.
first one was so good.
I think we can all agree the first Guardians of the Galaxy
It's
was
amazing.
very
I think it was better than the second one
Yeah.
overall, but I enjoyed the second one so much. The soundtrack, the interaction between the characters, the comedy was great. Like, I felt that it flowed well. I wasn't bored with it. You know, I didn't have a bored feeling of it. The first one was amazing, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the interesting concept for me is I don't know what they could have done with the second one where I would have been blown away. Because the first one was that crazy concept. It was one of the first ones of like, here's a bunch of heroes that nobody cares about, by the way, in the universe. And they took risks and they made it a little bit more silly, which up until that point, all the hero movies were like getting seriouser. You know, this time Captain America, like, he's my friend. You know, it's like, oh wow. But with this movie, they went
really
full
good Captain
silly.
America
I
impression.
mean, Guardians is, in my opinion, the first superhero movie where I'm like, yeah, these characters, they work the way they're supposed to, right? Like we either, like you mentioned, we either have conflict or it's like, hey, the buddy team up. I mean, I'm excited for Thor just because I hear that the Hulk-Thor relationship, that it's almost a buddy cop type movie. But it's totally driven by, these interactions between one another. Like, I don't know. I'm really interested because you say the jokes that we did again, but they had so much more opportunities for them to interact together. Like I'm thinking about when Mantis is like touching him and Drax is like laughing and now do me. And
He was great.
I just felt like the characters came out a little bit more. I'm also a massive Rocket Raccoon like fanboy.
Yeah.
So like anytime he opens his mouth, it's fucking hilarious, Adam.
It felt to me a little bit like there was an opportunity. This is a sequel issue, not just a Guardians of the Galaxy issue. There's like, in the first movie, you're introduced to the characters. So if they are all one note, that's okay, because you never heard those notes before. But in the second film, they either have to do something different with them or find another way to play that note, but it's still the same thing. And I found Drax like actually really underutilized in that movie because
Really?
I felt like they were like, we know what you think is funny about Drax, and we're gonna just hammer that over and over. And like with Groot, like, Groot was, did you think Baby Groot was funny? Here's a lot more of that than you need. It had mascotitis.
I can agree with that. Groot did have a little bit more screen time. Drax was amazing.
It felt like the movie was written by 3 writers and a focus group.
Which
Which it could have-
putting the popular thing in, even though porgs look really cute and Baby Groot.
Well, but the porgs are a different thing because we've never seen that before, right? Like Baby Groot got the joke. We got the joke the first time, and then they were like, "But what if it was the joke again?"
I mean, if I was gonna argue kind of like what you're saying, I would say between Star-Lord and what's her bucket? I'm sorry right now. Please
Girlfriend?
say it. What? Gamora, thank you. Like that tension
Guardians
was pretty
of the
much
Galaxy
copied.
featuring Star-Lord and his girlfriend.
You know what though?
But that's right. Like they did a lot of that, and
That
it
kinda
was
was
cute
that,
the
actually,
first
though.
20 minutes, and then that is it.
Gamora and her
I'm gonna-
sister was the better relationship in that movie, though.
Yeah,
I actually
yeah.
found that way more interesting.
Yeah,
I mean,
way
I'm
more
gonna
interested
acknowledge
in his
it's-
father's relationship. That was kind of like,
It's hard. It's a challenge coming up with a sequel. But I think if we look at Thor as a series of films, like The Dark World is very different from Thor. Thor is still the same guy. We don't get a ton of new jokes or bits from him, but they've set it in a completely different space. And I guess I didn't feel like Guardians of the Galaxy 2 went far enough away from the first movie.
Yeah.
okay, that's fair.
Fair enough. Adam, what are some of your?
So Baby Driver was on my list. I think it's a fantastic film. We already talked about that. My other movie is Get Out.
Ah, yeah.
Get Out is
yes,
so
yes.
good.
Absolutely.
If I had a fourth, that would.
Yeah, I really, really liked that movie. I knew that it was going to be interesting going in, but I didn't until I watched it and actually got all the way through and had a chance to sit down and like talk about it with people. That I was like, oh yeah, like this is not only a good movie, but like an important one.
It was so smart. Like, there's obviously a lot of the overt racism that exists in how people interact, but the one that hit home for me was when the guy was like, "You watch golf?" and I was like, that's something that either my dad or maybe, if I'm being fully honest, I've done in the past, where I'm like, there's this black player in this other sport. I mean, do you like him? And it's like, you're not trying to do that, but that was nail on head, and then I was aware of it and thinking about it.
I've had that happen. It was hockey.
Yeah.
You watch hockey, I was like, I know what puck looks like.
So I like that because the movie was good all around, but it actually had me at the end of it walking out being thinking and being more aware of those issues.
And the message was clear.
It's yes, we love to be entertained by movies, but like movies can also be a great, social commentary, right? We've had so many directors and storytellers who in the past have told these amazing stories, but they're also literally like shitting on like the status quo in terms of saying like, look at what is happening, look at what this is, like be aware, get educated. And I felt like appreciation for this being a movie that was not only incredibly entertaining, but one that, we can sit down and we could talk about it. And
what I thought was really interesting about the film-going experience of Get Out was that as a person for whom Hollywood as a thing is basically just falling over to give handjobs to, it was nice to watch a movie where I was like, oh, that wasn't for me. Like, I can enjoy it and I understand it, but like, there are people's experiences that went into making this film that I cannot understand and I've never been a part of, but I could still empathize through that. Yeah.
I think they look for that, though. I think they look for that type of crowd, and that's why they make these type movies, and I respect that only at the end of the day. But at least you know now, like, this is out there, and hopefully more people will, visit that type of movie. I thought it was great, educational and inspirational and all that. Going where people might be like, oh, this is touchy. Oh, we shouldn't talk about this, but...
And challenging, by the way, because there are ways not to do that very well. And on either side, you could fall into it being like too ham-fisted, then it gets away from being a good movie, or it's too lighthearted. We've had that issue as well before, where a character is in a movie or show and they are there to represent a stereotype or a group of people, but they're done so poorly that that's offensive.
Right.
This movie, I thought, did a really good job of just kind of, it's set in a really ridiculous situation, which was also kind of cool from a horror movie element. Like the mom was freaking terrifying, actually.
Well, it's great because it uses the language of horror films to make the message and the underlying themes of the film accessible to people who may not have the cultural experience of the characters, but who have experience as people who like horror movies, right? And so they can see these things put into a juxtaposed position and to be able to access the film's meaning through those.
What about you, Marcus?
So I do want to give one shout out to a movie that did something I don't think any movie's been able to do. You're smiling.
There's some fuckery about to happen.
It's not at all, actually. I want to put it on my list, but at the end of the day, there's one other movie I liked about it. But Dunkirk, for me, was really incredible that there was a movie that presented the emotional impact that that the betrayal of war can bring without being guts and gore and violence, and they did it through like sound. And if you haven't seen Dunkirk, I'm sorry that you're not going to get to experience that in the theater, but I've never experienced something like that before, and it actually took me a little bit of the movie to kind of like realize that, like, dude, every single time I hear one of those planes coming, I am like, I can feel myself getting, it's like, wow, I think there's, like it's recreating some of that tension. So anyway, but I didn't think this movie was scary, but God, did I love the Skarsgård brother in it. It was just incredible. Eric Skarsgård, right? It's Eric?
Yeah.
It's Eric, right?
Is it the True Blood Skarsgård or the other one?
It's the brother to the hot one.
Not the hot one.
He's such an interesting actor because I watched Hemlock Grove on Netflix partially because I'm like, there's something terrible about him in this series that I can't not stop watching. He blew me away. Like, I thought he was the star of the show, and it's been a long time since I've felt like a horror movie, like, you were the star of the show, bad guy. Like, that's amazing. So I loved it.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Adam, what are your thoughts on that? Because I know you're a big horror movie fan as well, but...
I think horror is tricky to do because, like sci-fi, it exists in a context. And so for me, the kinds of things that make horror movies interesting is the context that they're in. Which, to go back to Dunkirk, I think it's interesting the way we look at World War II right now in the current sort of political situation of North America is maybe different than we did when Dunkirk was being made. And so it's interesting, and I kind of wonder when you were talking about Dunkirk and about its context, like, are we ever going to get tired of World War II as like a setting for films?
I don't think so. It's like a universally accepted as like that was the good war. That was the one we were supposed to do, and we did it. So it has this weird, at least for me, growing up where I did on the West Coast, it's just been conditioned in me that like that is a good memory. That was That's what war should and could be. A tyrant, a mega evil, nation was doing something bad. The good guys rose up and stopped it. Almost every war after that doesn't have that feel, like at all. Like even Desert Storm and stuff like that. We, as an American growing up in high school at that time, it was like, we consider that like a weird, botched political thing where a lot of people went off and died, came back like insane, sick, and depressed. Right. And everything after that's been really bad too. That's my 2 cents, but.
Fanboys, war is bad.
Yeah. Well, it's not surprising for my list.
Except World War II.
Dunkirk was way up on there as well. And I agree with everything Marcus said. That was another movie, though, where I walked out. I think a lot of people expected an action movie, so they came out and they were like, wow, Saving Private Ryan was way better than that. And I was like, that's not the point. But I loved, too, that movie did something that it did as well, where it took a technique in film that has been done, obviously. The audio engineering of that movie was incredible. The bullets just showed up. It didn't show like soldiers coming over a hill, then bullets. It was just bullets are here now, and people are going down, and they're like all over your head. That was amazing. And then when they did like the still cam on its head and moved around.
They did a lot of really
just his eyes would kind of bobble over and around. Just all of those things to make you unnerved. I really appreciate it. I don't think anyone came out of that movie like I was horrified. I wasn't.
I wanted to be a little bit because it's like creepy as shit.
It's disturbing.
Right? And like I actually, from what they're saying, there's a few scenes that they took out of the movie. Like the sort of origin of Pennywise is apparently like a big thing. He like eats a baby or something.
Yeah.
I'm like, that might freak some people out, Jeff.
Yeah. I'm totally cool with that.
He's a demon. Apparently he's a demon. And
a demon is what they're going to go with that.
Yeah.
Not alien. Interesting.
Not alien.
Okay.
I looked up the origin. I was very into. I was like, what makes this guy eat babies? And so I looked it up, and
it's a demon. Eat a baby in once in a while. We've all thought about it.
Yeah.
I mean, Stephen King's had a real up and down year, right? Like, because Dark Tower came out this year, which I found to be like really disappointing as a fan of the book. But then It has been like highly acclaimed. I'm just really hoping that they're going to ride the coattails of It into a remake of The Lawnmower Man. That's what I want.
There's a lot. There were weird concepts, but they were such good books, man. Like,
The Lawnmower Man is like a debauchery of the original story, is it not?
The original story is about someone's gardener who is like a satyr, like serves pan or whatever, and then it got turned into Pierce Brosnan dominates the cyberverse somehow. There's definitely a lawnmower in both of them, though, so it's fine.
I liked it.
Stay true to his name.
The only movie I want to add, and I'm kind of cheating with this because it hasn't come out yet, so it's hype, is Episode 8 for Star Wars, and I'll tell you why.
Wait a second.
This is my theory.
You're putting
a
movie that hasn't come out yet.
Best movies of the year.
I actually was going to put that on my list, but I didn't know if it was
Great minds think alike. It could end up, obviously, not being that great. I don't think it will. But the reason I'm mega hyped is the leading theory on how all the movie posters show the villain blown up in the background behind the cast. And in this movie poster, it's Luke Skywalker. And if they have the gusto to do that, to actually... And they make him look nefarious.
Pattern, Jeff. Oh my.
And they can't Disney cop out either, where he's like standing over her like, I Thor to strike you down. And she's like, but you're my father. He's like, you're right, I love you. And then that's like the end of the movie. I'll be like, I'll vomit.
That's actually usually how it goes when a father and a child in Star Wars get together. Like, I'm your father. Oh, thanks, Darth. Give me a hug.
I want him to go mega crazy and actually be like on a vendetta type of thing, like Darth Vader.
Do you think that the mainline Star Wars universe has room for that kind of nihilism?
I don't, but that movie poster actually gives me hope because it's 100%. It's not even like a dabbling between two characters. Like, well, this one's kind of big. It's Jar Jar Binks. No, none of that ever. It's always been Vader, Emperor Palpatine, and all that, Darth Maul.
Because if Luke falls to the dark side, the story that's being told there is that that's what happens. Like, you cannot avoid it, which I'm pretty into. I like the dark endings, but I just don't think Star Wars is going to go there.
I agree.
We found out it's just genetics.
Exactly.
You're fucked. You're
fucked, The midichlorians have made you evil, and that's just how it goes.
It's definitely my wild card. I mean, if they cop out and it's this whole, like, he's proselytizing gray Jedi stuff and he ends up being swayed back over and it's exactly what you think it is, then no, it probably won't be my favorite movie of the year. But if they have the guts to take a character like that and make it into something else, then I will be so excited for more Star Wars. So excited. Because then I don't know.
Wait, is Palpatine on Return of the Jedi?
Return of the Jedi, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He's dead now, though. But what I
He dies at the end.
Well, right. But what I was saying is that, like, you were saying you were worried about it ending with Luke being like, oh, it's all good, right? But, like, that didn't happen in Empire, so.
it didn't happen in Empire.
I mean, maybe actually he tried to.
But
make
what
it
I'm
happen.
saying, they touched on it though. A majority of that movie, they tried to make it sound like if you go to that tree and Luke Skywalker is wearing black the whole time, and they're trying to heavily suggest that Luke Skywalker could go either way.
Really? I thought he was wearing black.
I heard that
because
about
he was,
Luke.
like,
They did a pretty
badass.
poor job of it. I mean, it wasn't compelling, but that's what I'm saying. If they do that in this movie where there's like pensive Luke Skywalker moments where he's like looking at 2 apples and one's rotten and he's like, I'll eat this one. No! Anyways, enough time on that. Let's talk about what we actually disliked as well.
Just like, should we just throw out like the one thing we hate?
I'm going to reverse order you. Marcus, what is it that this year, and we didn't talk about shows, so just give me your worst movie and your worst show.
Okay. My worst movie, even though it is a movie that I think everyone should see because it's so beautiful, is Valerian. Valerian.
We've been saying this all year long.
I was.
You guys liked it? You're big fans?
Listen.
The thing is here, I think the reason that our friend djWHEAT likes this film so much is that, like him, very pretty to look at, not much there.
Wow.
But even bad movies can feel, Adam.
Not French ones.
That's right. Valerian was a movie that I wanted to be like here.
And the worst feeling.
And you know what I take away from Valerian, like if they throw out a sequel, I'm so fucking there, right? Like there were concepts in this movie that I was like, my mind is expanding. This is amazing. The like VR market and the cool shit with the like this inner dimension. I'm thinking about.
Yes, but
I'm
Marcus,
like, this is
every
like
line.
song combat in a ship that we never ever did because it's way fucking complex, and now I can see why.
Every line though.
But there were things where I'm just like, if you just didn't have that, or
There was
you
like
didn't have
3
this,
scenes of
or
like pseudo implied rape. I was so uncomfortable.
so
He's like, well, the door's locked, and I'm like, what are you saying?
So you can have that experience that you had with Valerian by taking LSD, and then you don't have to go to the theater. You can just stay at home, listen to Pink Floyd. It'll be fine.
well,
But that's the trick, right? And this is absolutely not the first time we've run into this, especially in
Yeah.
sci-fi. That idea of like, A, I wanted it to be good and it wasn't, and B, it's beautiful or interesting or does something visually that we have never seen another film do,
yeah.
but it just wasn't good, right? Like Avatar is that experience for a lot
Oh
of people.
God, please, let's not.
Come on.
Right. No, it's similar, right? Because there's actually things in that movie that are, you know, absolutely incredible, and they're.
Wait, maybe he's not talking about The Last Airbender here.
I mean, that was also bad.
Okay.
No, that was terrible.
Yeah. So I won't say any more on that. But for television shows,
Yes.
Worst show.
Please.
worst show. Yo, dude, this cup. I'm gonna represent this cup. Another
I
show
wonder if
that
he's
you
gonna
gotta
say-
watch, but is just horrible.
Trash.
It's called Neo Yokio.
Oh, nice.
Whoa, I thought he was going a different route there.
That's low-hanging fruit, but okay.
Holy shit, is this bad? But it's so bad that you just can't stop.
Wow.
And Neo Yokio
Which is a thing.
This Netflix anime that Jaden Smith is in. And
I think that's it. I think you're good.
there's like, it's like every anime trope that is like
You don't deserve this
misunderstood.
Toblerone bar.
Oh God. So you've seen it, right? And is that it? Is that?
It's like amateur theater, right? It's like someone who is like, I wrote and directed this really cool anime, and they think it's really cool, and somewhere a bunch of their close friends were like, you did a great
Dude,
job.
this is it. Like,
And-
I've never seen something like this.
or they just have the money to push it through, which happens too.
Right, and then, and they release it to the internet. I think we exist in this liminal space with that kind of content where there is a very thin line between total horseshit and pure art, right? Where you can release a show, you can release a show like Neo Yokio and be like, you just don't understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, you understand, man.
You don't get it. It's satire or whatever.
And you know, season 2 is coming. So
No way. Really?
apparently,
Brandon.
Apparently, I really assumed that when I saw this trailer, I'm like, dude, Will Smith literally was like, hey, happy 17th birthday, buddy. Here's $20 million. He's like,
Happy birthday,
Dead
Daddy
on.
got you
we're
an
hiring
anime.
some animators. Let's do this. Who plays the robot butler? Jude
Law.
Jude Law. Yes.
Who I love.
Watch this. You're just gonna be like, what the? It's crazy. Anyway, that's all.
Worse.
I
All right,
know
Adam.
all the time.
You got a lot to choose from, I'm sure, but
So I mean, the thing for me is like I could have just gone with like the worst overall, like just badly made, poorly written garbage that I could go with. But I feel like that's the easy choice. I'm gonna go with the most disappointing thing that I watched all year, Ghost in the Shell. It was so bad.
That was.
Yeah.
And like I feel extra bad for everyone who participated in this film because we bookend it with Blade Runner that's just like, these are for you, Ghost in the Shell. Like it was so disappointing and so bland. It wasn't even like bad. It was visually kind of okay, but it underutilized everyone that was in it. It flopped around. It had these kind of like nods to the original, but in a really uncreative, boring way, where it was just like, well, yes, we've seen the original film. Here it is. Like, here are parts of it.
Yeah.
It just felt like a total mess. Not even to touch upon all of the bullshit with Scarlett Johansson even being in it in the first place, right? Like, I knew it wasn't going to be great from that perspective, but I had hoped there would be something salvageable in it, and I couldn't. From the dubstep reimagining of the theme song through all of the trashy acting, it let me down time and time again.
Yep.
what about show?
For shows, I made the mistake of watching the most recent season of Archer, and they have just fucking phoned it in so hard now. Like, just stop. Like, I get that it's making you money, but these are the people that made, first of all, the early seasons of Archer, but also shit like Frisky Dingo and C-Lab, which were brilliant.
Yeah.
And now, like 8 seasons into Archer, they clearly gave up on the premise, but are unwilling to let the show die. They're like, what if it was Miami Vice? What if he's in a coma and it's film noir? Like, just stop. Just let it die. You're creative people. Do a different thing. But it really felt like they were just milking it for cash, right? So that was the biggest disappointment for shows for me, for sure.
Yeah, fair enough. What about you, djTechLive?
John Wick 2.
What?
Hate me.
Oh, damn.
Hate me.
Damn.
I have so much to say about this movie. I went in.
You're supposed to drink
I'm
after
wrapped.
the shows.
I went in people saying this was the best thing I've ever seen, best action movie ever. I'm pumped. I actually bought popcorn for this. Sat in the one theater that I assigned my seat to, Fandango, did everything. Got in there and I was like, all right, Keanu, impress me. Same one-liner script lines. I mean, his script had to be a sentence each part. I understand this is classic him, but
That's John
you're gonna fight me, you're gonna give me a gun.
How is it that you don't like this movie, but you liked Guardians of the Galaxy 2? You're describing exactly the same thing. Like, I don't disagree, but
Right,
like,
I went in expecting Guardians of the Galaxy to be a comedy and have some cheesy moments that I was like ready for. John Wick, I was ready for a badass action flick that I was gonna fall in love with John Wick as an action guy to see more. Not Matrix again, like I love Matrix, but Jesus, he plays the same role in everything, I feel. And the fight scenes weren't that great. He seemed like he was rickety half the time. I know he's beat up and stuff, understandable.
He's also 52, man.
Yeah, but okay, get a younger person to do it then, It's like, I don't know, man. The way and he was loading the gun and all the slow-mo and that scene with the lady in the, I don't know, it was not a bathroom, but it was like a spa area or whatever. She had a hot tub. He was contracted to kill. And she was just like, John, yes. You want to do this? I have to. I was just like, oh my God, please say something more witty, And then the ending, my God, that put me over the edge. The ending was like, I'm gonna zoom in on him, face, wait, kill them all. And then he's like running for his life at the end, limping for his life. Like it was just, I was just like, why?
Is that your first Keanu Reeves movie you've ever seen?
No, and I wanted to feel like a new, reinvented Keanu Reeves.
to be fair, he does get typecast a lot. I don't know if you saw the extended cut of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. There's a lot more gunplay than you expect. The two of them fight. John Woo directed it. It's a deep. deep cut from the Hong Kong action.
I did not catch that, Adam.
Yeah,
fair enough.
look it up on the internet. It's out there.
I mean, the things that they got right, it's an homage to old school action flicks. I mean, there was not that many special effects going on. They were kind of like the old school, knock the door open, knock the guy off the bike type thing. But the interaction between him and the other bodyguard, I was just,
I'm gonna call user error on this one though, man. You're like, no, when I went and saw Guardians of the Galaxy 2, I was expecting comedy and lighthearted action. When I went and saw John Wick 2 with Keanu Reeves, I was expecting epic lines, better action.
No, so here's the thing.
I was hoping.
Here's the thing. They're gonna, for John Wick 3, it's gonna be directed by Tarkovsky, and it's 45 minutes of John Wick staring at a puddle.
That's what I wouldn't expect it.
There's one thing I will give Frank some defense on, is that like in the original John Wick, you know, you get that very stereotypical, like I'm playing the broody John, you know. But there's a moment where they have him captured and in that chair, and he like lets it go. And I remember watching it going like, holy shit, Keanu Reeves actually can act. Like, it's kind of amazing. And that wasn't actually in the second one, right?
Exactly.
I don't know if it's like, okay, this is the third act where we need John Wick to give this like crazy inspirational speech where we're like, really bring it home, Keanu. That wasn't there. So maybe that's what ruined it.
Exactly. And at the end, I was like, okay, he's gonna come back with something real good, you know, because everyone's after him. He's kicked everybody's ass, and he just busted with, gonna kill them all. And his head was shaking. And I was just like, oh God, we're back to square one. But show-wise, Iron Fist.
Yeah.
Oh, I totally forgot. I have post-traumatic stress disorder. I forgot that
Did you watch it, Adam? Did you watch it?
I did, and I forgot it existed. I'm freaking out right now.
It didn't even have fight scenes. People were just flying away from him for no reason. He was in the scene where he was trying to get into the building in the first part. I was like, oh my God.
Oh, dude.
He was just like, and people were just like, I was just like, bodyguards, you're like 3 times the size of this guy. He doesn't know martial arts, clearly. Actually, nobody in the show did. And even the choreographer didn't. And I was just like, man, this is hurting my soul here. Like,
it's so much worse than even that, though. Like, I was watching it, because I watch my shows when I have my lunch, and I was sitting there, I was like, Iron Fist, all right, I don't know anything about this character, I'm gonna give it a shot. The first 2 episodes are, you're not a rich guy, you're dirty and homeless.
Yeah, you're
like, I am rich, and that was the whole theme.
No, really.
Why don't you wear shoes? Like, I don't know. And they're like, that was it. That was the line.
The beginning of the new Tomb Raider trailer has that exact bit where she goes in and the guy's like, oh, what's your last name? And she's like, Croft. And I'm like, oh, not this shit again.
You know the funny, did you watch the whole trailer all the way through? The part where she's running and she jumps and you can still see the wire pulling her and stuff like that. You just hear her yank up. I got 100% Iron Fist like vomit in my mouth.
I mean,
all
it
over
is.
again.
I mean, they do share a similarity, right? There is this like narrative about rich people who, by merit of their richness, get like special training, or they have to like discard their richness to become super cool, right? Like Batman is a part of this universe, but it's especially egregious in Iron Fist because it's like, all right, white boy, you were given this like extremely important destiny by the monastery, and the first thing you do is fuck off, like. Your job as the Iron Fist is to protect Kunlun.
And they never defend it.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go back to being rich guy.
It's worse that he goes back to claim his name is the only line we get, and they're like, well, why is your name so important? They literally ask these questions because someone was like, well, give us justification, and he just keeps being like, oh, I love my family. And it's like, oh my God. So every time we see all like the butchered monks and Kunlun like destroyed or invaded or whatever, that's just on him. And he's just like, I want to be rich. It's like, I hate you now. You're a terrible character. It's such a bad show that at the beginning of Defenders, when he was a prominent character in the first 2 episodes, for one of the first times I actually stopped watching the show.
Yeah, I refused to watch it because he was in it.
Yep.
And from what I heard, nothing's changed. So.
And it's so bad too that his big cool moment is that his fist glows and he hits something. And every time it's like, that's not a cool moment. That's you're sniffing your own fart right now.
Right.
It's not
really,
good.
it's like the equivalent of, you know, when the I'm gonna show the $6 billion man, or $6 million man rather. Billion.
$6 billion.
Inflation.
Right, like every
back to the $600 man, but
every time, you know,
the $65
he did
man.
something which was like jump higher. Yeah, you got that because that was the budget. But back then, it's like, man, he's really
How did they do
doing it.
that?
Yeah. Same thing.
For me, I had Valerian, but I'm gonna dynamically shift. I hated a lot of movies, so I got a big list. One of the easiest ones for me to hate on was the Transformers movie because
That was on my list, number 2. Oh my God.
It was so.
We just need a reason for Rock'em Sock'em Robots. We got it.
The movie was so bad. I went into it expecting bad, and I still came out of it not disappointed, but not. It's a weird feeling. There has to be a new word for it.
You think you know where the bottom is, and then Michael Bay's like, nada.
Collapses.
Check it out.
And there's explosions
That's exactly
down
right.
I
there.
made a new bottom. We dug out the basement. We got
Yes.
some sub-basements for you.
But it's like an amusement ride feeling. Like when you do the drop, and you're like, whoa, and you like look at your friend, and you're like, oh,
Yeah, it was crazy.
Then it drops again.
Yeah.
Wow, it's drop.
It's like walking downstairs to the kitchen in the middle of the night to get a snack and you're still half asleep. You don't remember there's another step.
Wow.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then Michael Bay punches you in the mouth.
So this was supposed to be his last one, right?
Yeah.
Like
Like his last film ever?
well, no. It was supposed to be like, all right,
That's it, Michael.
I've obviously done what I can do with Transformers, so I'm going to pass the torch to them, right? And the interesting commentary about all of it is that, and I don't give a fuck about spoiling this shit. At the end of the last
We're
movie, they're
saving
like,
you.
Earth is a giant fucking transformer,
Yeah.
and it's like. No! That's actually impossible based off of every movie you've actually established,
Yeah.
and it's just dumb.
Yeah.
But he's like, hey, Roger, or whoever the hell takes it over, like, have fun with that steaming pile
Yeah.
of shit, motherfucker.
Totally.
Suck on that nerd.
He just takes a crap in a plastic bag,
Right.
writes Transformers on it, is like, here you go.
It's crazy. Yeah, this movie, though, when Jeff saw it before me, and then you told me the whole Anthony Hopkins.
Yes.
So, like, that's the part I was most excited for, was Anthony Hopkins' death scene, where he had this, like, super over-dramatic thing with, like, the sentimental moment with a robot. It was ridiculous.
It was. I'm glad you said Anthony Hopkins. I was going to stay away from it because I forgot his name. But in that movie, there's like this nice thing that happens in Hollywood when, like, you know, the heroine comes in or like the hero. They'll
I've heard
make-
about these parties.
They'll make the abs
Then they
pop
make
a little
movies.
bit more. They'll take off some skin blemishes. With Anthony Hopkins, they were like, fuck it, he's an overweight fat guy, so we're gonna show him. So he has a scene where he pulls his cane out and like shoots futilely at and they like turn around and blast him, and then in slow motion they show his like shirt come up, he hits the hill, it like shows the trumple and like and he like shuffles down the hill, and the whole time I'm like, he's a knight, he's a literal
No,
knight.
but so this is what's great is that this is part of a long lineage of Transformers movies, including actors who have aged out of their profession. Because in 1986, Unicron in the Transformers movie was played by Orson Welles.
Yeah.
So we got a long tradition. Unfortunately, Orson Welles died shortly after filming that. So Anthony, buddy, take care of yourself.
It was just that scene for me highlighted how bad this was, though, because the scene was so pointless, it was so bad. And then, like Marcus said, his like sidekick robot comes over and is like, "Sir, you know, I've been with your family a long time, and you were like pretty cool." And he's thanks, man. And I remember being in the theater like,
Oh,
Anna's,
God,
Anna's
it's
very
real
uncomfortable when I
bad.
talk in movies, but I was just like, oh my God. She's like, stop. But the worst show for me was actually Orville, and it was along the lines as what Adam was saying too, where it's like not the worst show. Certainly Iron Fist is way worse than any show ever. But it was disappointing, and it was one of the shows that I wanted the concept, I wanted it to be cool, because I'm not really a Star Trek guy, but I'm totally into that genre and something along those lines. But it was weird because every joke in that first episode is so flat, so horrifically, like, I remember a lot of the criticism that people had, which was so weird, was they were like, I wasn't sure if it was a joke or if it was supposed to be just commentary, like them talking.
That's the one with Seth MacFarlane.
Yeah.
And so Seth, as with other MacFarlanes before him, has just reached past his prime. It's time to go, buddy.
Unless you're talking about
I
God,
fell asleep in the first episode and then had just zero desire.
Yeah.
And I don't know what I was expecting, but yeah, it didn't hit. Well.
It's hard too because a lot of people say it gets better. I watched the first couple episodes, but it was just like so flat and so bad that not that interested. But yeah, actually, if I could have done the show over again, I think we would have ended on a positive note as opposed to like, I hated that show. Anyway, thanks for
Well, we could talk about definitely like one of the best television shows ever.
All right.
Real quick, like
Okay.
we got the 10
30 seconds. What do you got?
I mean, if you haven't seen it, American Vandal is a
Yes.
must watch.
Have you guys seen that?
I've not.
Adam, you would actually.
Adam.
I know.
Adam, oh. All right, well then that's
Seriously.
fine because you can watch the VODs of us
Yes.
like, oh, it's so amazing, you know. It's
That
great.
show.
You'd love it. It's brilliant.
All right. Well, I know what I'm doing.
Another dick, another day.
Yeah.
So that's going to do it, guys. Thank you so much. You guys are an awesome audience.
Thank you.
I want to thank our guests.
Thank you so much for having us.
As always, what are you? Is your con done? What are you doing next?
I have to run to the expo stage, and we're doing Tough Code and Dobotone, fighting against my teammates, my Team Catalyst teammates, and see who's going to win. I'm not going to, but they probably will.
Well, good luck.
Thank you so much.
He's djTechLive on Twitter and streaming, of
Twitch.
course. So check him out. Adam, you have to be done. I think they've
No,
said 6
no.
No.
Me and old djWHEAT here, we got to go and close out the show. So
We're gonna have to run off. So
Okay.
Yeah.
You're gonna. You're gonna field all the. Oh, did you have sunburn there? You're
No,
gonna
it's
Field
okay.
all the questions.
He just doesn't like to be touched.
No, we're done. Yeah, we're done in 20
Yeah, we're
seconds.
done.
There's no questions. But thank you. Thank you, Adam. He's Adam Koebel on Twitter right now, or Skinny Ghost. No, you're
Skinny Ghost on Twitter, Adam Koebel on Twitch.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, Marcus.
Twitch yearly. If you're interested in seeing us close out the
He'll
show,
cry. He'll probably cry. So
I
go
will
check him out.
definitely be crying today later.
And not just because Adam burned him so bad earlier.
Definitely.
That was amazing.
I know.
Thank you guys. You guys
Thank
have a
you.
great TwitchCon.
Thank you.